This is Getting Past the Subtitles. My name is Sean Peel.
And this is DK Lee.
And welcome to a fresh start. That's right, we are starting a new series this week. We're coming off the old one, and I just got one question for you. Are you ready to laugh?
Depends.
That's the test anyway.
Depends on the movie, I guess.
That's the test of the series anyway. You know, I say the goal of this series is to make you piss your pants.
I think as I was watching the movie, I was kind of trying to see how, like, more of the mechanics of the movie and seeing, like, what they do to make the movie funny, right? Like,
Sure.
how they, like, for example, for this movie, how do they choreograph this scene
Right.
to, you know, make that punchline hit or
Right,
something
right.
like that, right?
Mhm.
And I think it'd be interesting to see throughout the series, like, how different movies approach comedy
Yeah.
and what they do to try to get that punchline.
Yeah. What their like style of comedy is
Mhm.
and deliverance and such
Yeah.
like that.
But more like mechanically, right? Like,
Sure,
or
sure.
like more structurally how they do that, you know,
Right.
in terms of, like, you know, what kind of cuts they use, or, like, you know, what kind of, you know, what kind of moment they're trying to create, right?
Mhm.
Through editing or whatever.
Right.
And also, like, you know, like I said, choreographing it, or, you know, creating that.
Yeah. How far in absurdity will these movies go to
Mm.
get to make you laugh?
And, you know, like, there's different kinds of comedy as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think our series this time around is very diverse in that respect. I think there's various different styles of comedy and, like, what makes people laugh. And I
Right.
think that different movies will hit different kinds of audiences in terms of comedy.
Yeah. Comedy's like it's one of those things where it's kind of easy for everybody to watch because everybody likes comedy. It's kind of easy to get into, but it's really hard to deliver because you know what people have different senses of humor, kind of find very subjective, and like yeah, I can see that they're trying to go for comedy, but I thought that was stupid. Like you can kind of run into that a lot,
Yeah.
you know. So it's like it's very hard to deliver and get across, but it's kind of easy to get into in a way, you know.
Right. I mean, it's appealing to the masses, right?
Right.
But also, because it is appealing to the masses,
It's like
there's just so many different tastes, right?
right. But this is one of my favorite ones for sure.
Mm.
This is dare I say maybe like one like my favorite
Really?
movie from South Korea. Definitely like when I first watched it, it's up there. But every time I see it, it's like I just reminded why I love this movie so much.
Mm.
So I think it was actually my father who introduced me to 20, and he loved it, and then I loved it, and I've seen it so many times since.
This
And
seems
it's
like your kind of humor.
It just worked for me like all the way, and it even hasn't been like that long since I first saw it because I saw it in like pretty recent years, but I've seen it a lot.
It's been a while, right, since this came out now?
Yeah, so this movie came out in 2015.
7 years ago.
which is
Damn.
quite a while.
7? Damn, bro.
Yeah, when you think about it, 15 when you say it isn't long, but then when you do the math, you're like,
Oh my goodness.
it's going in the double digits.
Dude.
It's going in the double digits.
Anyways.
But yeah, it still feels relevant though. Like it still feels like a modern kind of comedy film.
What are you saying? 2015 is not modern?
I'm just after the comment you just said, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a little bit about the movie. It's called 20 or Sonmul.
Sumur.
It's the same translation.
Yeah, it just means 20.
Just means 20.
Yeah.
So this was written and directed by Byeong-heon Lee, and like we said, released in 2015. Not only will I say, is this the best movie? I'll even go as far as to say, Byeong-heon is made like low key one of the best writer filmmakers in South Korea.
He did the other film that's more recent, with the cops.
Yeah,
With
Extreme Job,
Extreme Job, yeah.
which is really good. That one's an adaptation from the Chinese film, but he did a really good job in that adaptation. But he wrote Scandal Makers.
Mm-hmm.
He also wrote Sunny. Like I said, he directed Extreme Job, but he also did his first one was Cheer Up, Mr. Lee, which is really really good. Then he did What a Man Wants, which is like Korea's mix on What a Woman Wants. And then he has an upcoming movie. Hopefully it'll come out this year called Dream. I know it got delayed because of COVID, I read. So I think it's like about sports, like a football team.
Yeah.
But like all these movies are great. Like they're all like very kind of family oriented comedies, like same way that 20 is in the same lane. But they're all like,
I don't know if this is family oriented.
That's true. Yeah. Like
his other ones are more family oriented, I would say.
Yeah.
But this one is a little more.
This one's more
vulgar.
It's made for the 20s.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. It's definitely made for the younger audience, I think.
Yeah.
But
they're all like really solid movies. You know, they're all like kind of summer blockbuster-ish.
Yeah.
At home movies. But
it's very easy to watch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like you
can't
Old
do no
Boy.
wrong.
It's not like our other series where you gotta like take a break after.
Yeah. It's not complicated. It's no Park Chan-wook kind of film, you know. But they make you laugh and they're good. So I really like him. Anything that he does, I just enjoy all the time, you know. And it, like I said, like I go back to, if movies are supposed to be entertaining, like he's the king of like entertainment. Like all these movies are just really entertaining. And 20 is no different. But when did you first see it? When did you?
It's been a really long time. When I watched this, I was like, did I even watch this before? And then I'm like, sorry, as I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this scene. I remember that. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, this is what happened. And yeah, like it was never a bad movie, I think, when I watched it, but I don't think it's something that was like, oh wow, this is so good.
Right.
But I mean, it was fun. It was like fun, just easy to watch movie.
Right.
It's definitely good to watch when you kind of like want to like de-stress and just kind of chill.
100%.
A very good chill movie.
Yeah,
so
this is an easy movie that I would recommend to everybody. Like for personally, be like, oh, I want a good comedy, or like, especially if, oh, I want to see like a good, you know, foreign film, or like I heard about South Korea, blah blah blah. But you gotta watch 20. Like 20 is so easy and good to get into. You know, anybody can kind of relate to it.
How is it like? This is another interesting topic that I kind of want to go over. Maybe when we start discussing is like, how was the subtitles in aiding or preventing you from, you know, getting that comedy bit?
I'll say in my case, it's a weird question because I'm pretty sure what I saw was like fan subs, right? So from my experience, they did a really good job. Like most of the jokes landed, or at least translated well through subtitles. Like it really matched sort of like the inflections and kind of, you know, the way that they were speaking and like kind of like helping in their deliverance and there's nuances. But like the thing with translations too is, like I said, I probably saw it in fan subs. I don't know if there's like or even if there exists
official
like domestic release, and that would probably be translated by somebody entirely. So it's a tricky question when you talk about subtitles because you could have different sources. Like
yeah, exactly. But I just wonder like how much of that translates,
right? Especially for comedy, because
that's what I'm saying. Like for comedy, it's kind of important, especially with the nuance and like what they exactly say. And I was watching it too with subtitles as well, just to see like how it was. And surprisingly, they were quite on point with what they were saying. Okay. Like it wasn't like a completely like different like way of saying it, or like different words, or like different, you know, meanings.
Like a liking to what they were saying.
It was very almost one-to-one.
Gotcha.
Most of the time. So it's like, you know, especially when they, you know, do all the funny like, you know, dick jokes or like the, you know, the sex jokes or whatever. Those are very like one-to-one.
Okay.
And I think that's very important for that to really land, right?
100%.
Especially when you're reading it. So I was just wondering, like, for you watching it and not knowing Korean, like how it would affect.
Yeah, like I said, it read really well. It's just like, you know, even in English it read well, but it felt like it was on point. And like, you know, like I said, with all like the more raunchy jokes, it felt very raunchy, kind of like deliberate in that sense. But like, yeah, like there was no sort of pulling of a punch.
Like one example I would talk about is like when Chiho it starts like explaining about the invasion of the penis aliens, right?
Yeah.
And like that's a lot of like him talking, right?
Yeah,
And for that to be subtitled, and then it helped though because there was like manga pages like going by.
That's true.
So that probably helped a lot, right?
Giving
To add,
context, like,
to that context. But
yeah, I think what also helped too was that like with the movie, like it's set in very like modern times, but also what they're talking about is very like relevant to kind of like everybody. Like nothing was really sort of rooted in
or very specifically,
right.
like,
Yeah, like we talk about very like culture, like very kind of Korean culture, or very like nuanced. That's very independent of itself. Like this movie wasn't really that.
it was very broad.
It was very broad. Like it's pretty much a coming of age film.
Yeah, I mean, every culture has dick jokes, I'm sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody in their 20s is the same. No
Yeah,
matter what,
exactly.
you know? And everybody knows what it's like to be a boy. All the boys knows. So like that really helped too.
Yeah.
As well. Nothing was like, like very kind of nuanced in that way.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think this movie does really well in terms of like if you're watching it from a foreign perspective view.
Yeah.
Like every joke is just so like, to be honest, like such basic like like just like tier one jokes, right? Like
Right.
like for example, like the guy's masturbating and then his sister comes in. Like that's such a like like
I thought about that too. I was like, oh yeah, this
it's such a classic like scene like setting that happens in like comedy that like anyone I'm sure can understand what that is, right? And have a laugh at it if they think that's funny.
Right. Yeah, I would probably say maybe like the only thing, I mean, not too much, like at the end, so when they get conscripted by the military.
Yeah.
Because like that's a Korean specific thing, right? Because everybody has to do 2 years at least. So like, if you don't know about that, once you get to the end, you're like, wait, why did they get recruited into the military?
Right.
But like once you understand, it kind of adds to like, everything was like finally good in their lives.
Kind of getting better.
Yeah, they're like, we accepted it. We're kind of like, seeing the bright side, and then it's like snatched away.
Yeah.
So that kind of gets like, I could see that being off-putting for like a foreign audience. Like, I don't understand why this is a twist.
Right. Or like why that happened there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Or like, and that's a comedic beat in itself.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, hi. And then the mom walks in and it's like, I got your notice. And he's like, fuck.
Basically, yeah.
So I could see how.
Yes, I feel like that part maybe wasn't translated as well, but I think that's just hard to translate, right?
Right. I mean, like
because
word translation, fine. It's just more.
Context, like exactly the contextual thing is the hard part.
Right.
But because I think the wording, like they did it fine. I think.
Yeah.
Right. Like the wording of it and the subtitles did it fine, but I think to understand that context requires a little more understanding of the culture.
Right, yeah.
Or like understanding of Korea's
just like the
system.
Way of life.
Yeah.
System.
Which is kind of the hard part. So it's not really a fault of the subtitles or anything like that.
No. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's the end of the movie too. So it's not like it's not like it's taken away from everything else. But that would probably be my own sort of comment there. But to get into it, let me see. What do I have? I guess it'll be my turn. We're gonna go into our quick take here. Do I have my little stopwatch? I still hold the record at 240. Yeah, boy. All right, let me see. I wrote it down. It's about a paragraph. Should be good. I'm aiming for like 225. What do you think?
If it's a paragraph, it might be faster, dude.
It might be. I was writing it and I was like, I don't want to write too many sentences. And like every sentence that I added, I was like, make it short.
One sentence is a paragraph, though.
It's like there's not a period in sight.
You have like 5 different commas, a semicolon at the end.
Just like write it like how you talk. Just like, All right, I got it. Let me start it now. So we follow 3 high school friends who are transitioning into their 20s. This is a very coming of age story about going into young adulthood. Rationalizing that their 20s are the midpoint of their lives, and also probably the most important. They realize that they've already wasted a lot of time and need to get serious. Chiho's answer, who's the tall guy, says that the answer is to get laid initially. So following like a plan to teach his boys to the negotiation of sex, things end up going wrong. So Kyung Jae is one of the guys who is the first year business management major. He didn't go to university. Chiho is literally the do nothing guy, but he just goes to parties at night.
He's just rich.
He's just rich.
Yeah.
Or his family's rich anyway. And then lastly, there's Dongwoo, and he ends up repeating a year because he's too poor to go to college. Basically, what happens for each of these three friends is they experience trials and tribulations when it comes to love and personal circumstances. So Kyung-jae ends up falling in love with Jinju, who is a more senior student than him in his business program, and his love is actually one-sided. It turns out that she was having an affair with a very popular professor in school. So Dongwoo is actually too busy for romance, as he actually even ends up blowing off like an old classmate of his that he meets. He struggles with his mom and his brothers, who live under very impoverished conditions, while he also tries to juggle pursuing his own career and path. It ends up that he chooses the safe approach and gives up on comic book art in the end. He actually ends up dating Kyunjae's sister as well. Chiho is the good for nothing womanizer. He actually has a funny arch because he ends up hitting on a girl and then literally hits her with a car. And then it turns out that she's like a beginning actress, and then he is forced to be her manager. This is how he gets introduced to the world of filmmaking. And him and the actress end up getting into like a complicated relationship. And by the end of it, she dumps him, and then he actually like seriously pursues filmmaking to be a director. So the movie ends with, and also he was dating an old classmate, which was Soming. And then actually Soming ends up dating Kyung-jae as well.
Yeah.
So there's lots of weird love triangles. The movie ends with their young lives starting to kind of look up and accepting sort of the things that are going on until they get their military conscription notices.
Nice.
2:59. God dang it!
You should just turn it to 3 minutes, man.
It's okay. I'm gonna shave off 5 seconds for like technical.
What do you mean?
Still 2:55. All right. Yeah, I really like this movie a lot.
Forgot the beginning though, how they became friends.
That's true. It is true.
They became friends because they all liked that one girl, Somin.
Yeah.
And then Chiho basically touches her breast first, and then because of that, like they all kind of get into a fuss, and they start kind of saying who's going to date her first, and then basically from then on they kind of stick together until
They're like, he's like, I won't be dating her that long. Like, you guys can pick up. But then it turns out that they never break up.
Yeah, but that actually happens at the end. Where
yeah. Because he falls in love with the action girl or whatever. Yeah, actually, that's another one, too. That whole bit between Soming and Chiho, that's like a little bit weird. It could be a translation thing. It could be a filmmaking thing. Because I totally get in the beginning, right, they're high school friends. And then that they all have a crush on this girl. And then Chiho ends up being the one guy that dates her. But then there's that scene where she catches him touching some other girl's breasts, and then they break up in high school. And by like then I'm like, all right, like it's done.
Yeah.
But then fast forward to the present day when they're like in their 20s and they're all sitting at the restaurant. They're like older now, but then they're sitting in Somin's restaurant or family restaurant, and she's still going out with Chiho.
Yeah.
And it's like, at that point, I'm like, wait, what? Like,
I think it was just like they just assumed that, they are just dating.
Right. The serious wasn't.
Well, it's more like, I think it's more like they probably were like on and off like many, many times or whatever,
right.
Like
But the information
assumption
wasn't like explicitly said.
No, yeah.
And that's where the confusion kind of lies, So that's where it gets a little bit hairy. And then I remember like just having to kind of go along with it, and just like it be what it be,
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, I guess in the terms of that adds to the later drama, right? But that's the thing, like you never buy their romance.
Mm.
Like in their 20s, they're like dating, but there's no
Very platonic.
Very platonic, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like an aftermath of
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of like Chio's character too, right? Like he discusses. He's like, girlfriend is the person that. What was it exactly? I forget the exact quote, but
it's like that. I'd go to see the bang.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's like the girlfriend is the one that I go to see. I go to see when I want to have sex.
Yeah.
And the person that I'm dating is the person that I always have sex with.
Yeah. And it's like, what does it mean to be married? It's like when I have sex multiple times, more than once in a day. It's like, he's like, I totally get his logic. Dang it. So yeah, that was probably, I think that's maybe my biggest gripe with the movie. And I was like going back scene by scene this time too to like kind of really pin it. And it just isn't specifically kind of said. You just have to go with the vibes.
I mean, I think I think it's just, it's just assumed.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's whatever. Like I said, it adds to the later drama where it's like, oh, but I'm going out with somebody, then I just break up with her, and then I go out with this other girl, and then whatever that happens.
Yeah.
And then, Kyung-jae ends up dating her, too. Which is just, like, happens. They're, like, both heartbroken. They're like, let's go out now.
With the song in the restaurant.
So that's pretty neat. Any favorite scenes? Anything you want to... Scene-wise you want to get into?
I like the scene when they are having the party at the business program or the business club. They're having the party.
Yeah.
And then like he starts like going crazy, and then his friend starts like taking like video of him, and he doesn't understand like what happened the day after, and then the girl he likes, Jinju, like comes along and gives him a ride.
Yeah.
And then
he has like no idea.
Yeah, he just thinks that he's like, oh man,
like,
she actually likes me.
Yeah.
And then like all that bit, I think I like that bit.
I actually have to agree with you. That might be like my favorite comedy moment in the movie because it is just delivered so well.
Yeah.
But it's like one of the longer kind of bits.
Yeah, it's kind of long. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love like when it's revealed and he's like showing him the video and then you see the whole thing. And his name is Inguk.
The guy, the friend,
the colleague. And you just see like he's like directing the whole thing. Is like
that's what I love about it. I love that character specifically, and like, I actually like that actor as well.
Yeah,
I've seen him in different like dramas and stuff, but
it's the friend nobody wants, but the friend everybody needs.
But yeah, like he's great. Like even just that little touch of like him, like wanting it to happen, right? Like letting it unfold and embracing it.
Yeah. He's like holding in his vomit. And he's like, let it out.
Come on,
go. He like comes out of the bathroom and like walks in on it.
Right.
And he immediately takes out his phone.
Yeah.
It's like the only. He like
doesn't even try to help him. Has no hesitation.
Not even at all. And he's like, when he gets close to him, he like turns the lamp for the lighting.
That's what I'm saying. And those little touches in that scene is so great.
It's so great. Yeah, that's probably my favorite. And then like it cuts to the present, and Kyung-jae is like, it's like the dramatic like opera song, and he's like looking around like all disgusted with himself. He's like, it's not right. It's just not right.
Yeah,
that's comedy gold right there. That's good stuff. Yeah, it's probably my favorite funny bit for sure.
You're stealing my scene now?
I am. It's in my notes, so therefore I laid claim prior to the discussion. That's how it goes here. I mean, my notes are riddled with scenes, to be honest. Let me see. What was my other one? Gosh, there's so many. Like, I liked, I even like, I mean, anything in the bar is really cool, or everything in the restaurant when they're like all together.
Oh, yeah.
Is really funny. Like in the beginning when they figure out like we have to have sex, and he's like, what? And he's like, and she was like, think about it. Like in Germany, when they're young, they teach them sex ed. They hand out condoms like it's candy. And he's like, and what's the result of that? Mercedes, Audi.
Yeah, like that got translated pretty well, right?
Yeah,
like that got,
Yeah, and like I said, it's a very dialogue eccentric film.
Yeah, that's why.
Comedy, so
this is very dialogue heavy, right?
Yeah, and I would say like it's one thing this is probably one of the harder movies though. Like if you're just getting into subtitles, like if you're not used to like the pacing of it, because things go by fast in this movie.
Right.
Yeah, like the way that they talk and the speed of it is like really fast. I noticed that again this time around. I was like, sometimes I like really had to hit back by like 5 seconds. Like, wait, I can't miss that context. So they do talk really fast and a lot.
Yeah.
But the deliverance is good, like you said. I really like when Kyung-jae first gets into the college, and he's like, what's the first thing that a man does when they walk into like a new environment?
Yeah.
He's like, we just look for pretty women. He's like, I'm gonna be honest. And he's like looking around and he sees all the pretty women and there's like that one girl who's like smoking a cigarette and he's like, ooh, it's like very mature. And then she like spits it out after. He's like, nope.
Never mind. He was okay with the smoking. Yeah. It was the spitting part. He was like, oh no.
I was like, why is he? Oh, it's like a very like adultish look. In this new world. And he just was like, ugh.
And then he's keep walking and then he bumps into a girl and it's like it's the typical like bump and then like they drop moment. The stuff and then you pick it up and the hands touch right?
But she's like this very big girl and he's like, oh, actually just here,
never mind.
Never mind. Like you take your stuff.
Yeah.
She's like, but let me buy you a steak buffet dinner. And he's like, no, I'm good. I swear.
Barbecue buffet, K barbecue. Let's go.
It's the line. That line is so funny because it's so specific.
Yeah.
She like knows exactly what he's gonna take him out to get. Man, yeah, there's so many. I think that scene is my favorite now. But before that, my favorite scene was when Chiho has a talk from his parents, like his father, and he's like, "Get serious about your life."
Oh yeah.
And he's telling him, "Okay, you can go to culinary school. You can become a chef for my restaurant." Like recruiting him. He's like, "I don't want to do that." He's like, I'm out there doing what I want to do. He's like, I'm busy in my own way, going out to party. And he's like, honey, cut off his allowance. And he's like, no. And he starts to freak out like a child.
He's such a baby, yeah.
What gets me is when he does like the flying kick across the couch.
Oh, yeah.
That is the funniest shit ever.
And the dad. Like, comes out of nowhere. No. It's like literally off screen. And then it comes out from off screen.
It's just such a well-delivered kick. You know?
Yeah, it was fully horizontal.
Yeah, man. He was out there. You gotta be old but agile. You know what I mean? That's what it is.
And then later on, like the dad comes into his room. Yeah. He's like just laying down after he got like basically he got dumped, right?
Yeah, he's like heartbroken.
And then dad comes in, he's like, clean your damn room, and he starts throwing money on the table.
He's like a week on the couch and a week in the bed. Oh my god. He's like, Dad. He's like, what's up with women? Women are so messy. He's like, your room is messy. Clean up your room. He like throws him another 20 bill. I'm like, oh my god, it's hilarious. Must be nice to be rich, you know. Even when their parents are mad at you, when he's like,
they just throw money at you. Like money will fix this.
Yeah, no.
This broken life.
When they don't want to deal with it, just like throw money your way. Or he's like sitting on the couch and the parents walk in and they're like, oh my god, he's still there. And he like blurts out, he's like, it's wrong. And the mom's like, oh my god, he's possessed. Yeah. Oh, there's so many good ones.
Did they say he's possessed?
Well, not like that specifically.
I think they said
he's gone crazy.
Yeah.
He's gone insane.
Which is like in Korean, it's more of like a like he's like mental, like he's like it's like
loony.
미친놈 means like this guy is like it's kind of like an insult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the mom's like calling him like an insult.
My son is mentally disabled now. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh yeah, there's so many good ones. The one thing though that I wanted to pick up, I've seen this movie so many times, but I think one of the main things that I picked up on this watch was just kind of like noting and like you said, kind of seeing like the mechanics of the comedy works, but mainly seeing like how the little things make the bigger impacts. Like how are the actors, small, like the little mannerisms that they do, or like the quick cutaways of different characters that are really selling like the comedic moments. Like those are the things that I was like really looking, and because I think that in this movie specifically, that is what's really adding to the comedy. Because again, like the pacing of the movie is like really fast, and like the jokes never stop. Honestly, like on a scene by scene basis, like they're always throwing like some kind of joke within their dialogue, and like the cuts are quick, and it's like you really kind of got to pay attention to. Like what adds is like how they move. Like they're very visual, very movement, and like the cutaways. Like an example would be in the first scene back when Kyungja is like explaining like why their 20s are really important. They're like he's like think about it, like how long do we have to live? And then Dongwoo's like, I'm gonna live till I'm 80. And he's like, but how do you know that for sure? And he like drops a cabbage like in the moment.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? And he's like, if you divide our lives by half, and most of us are gonna live to 40, then like 20 is the year that's like really important.
Yeah.
He's like, all the more people die early, and he's like listing like all these celebrities, and he's like, Kurt Cobain died at 27, and Dongwoo's like, Kurt Cobain committed suicide. He's like, how do you know that you're not gonna commit suicide? He like spills the soju out of his mouth. Like those little things like really like sell it, you know? Like in a scene that's like not really aiming to be a punchline, but it's just a little thing that adds an element of comedy to it. You know?
Yeah.
So those are the things that I was like really picking up and appreciating more sort of this time around.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps the longevity of this movie and why I think it's just so good, because there's just like little nuances and things in there that I can like learn to respect every time,
right,
and kind of like keep me laughing.
You know? Yeah, I think a part of this, definitely there's a lot of animated movement from the characters, right? Right. Like they do that weird that like pelvic thrust thing.
Yeah, they're like their stick. They're like, woo! Right,
exactly, stuff like that, or when they're eavesdropping on Chiho and the girl, like they're drinking in his house, and then
they're in the closet.
Yeah, they're in the closet, and they come out, and then like he falls, and he basically is like bowing down. Yeah, like, and he does a little Buddha stuff, right? And those little animated gestures and points, I think, really make the comedy like stand out, right?
100%.
And make it more funnier.
Yeah.
Whereas like exactly, so like those things, like thinking about that choreography, I think is very important in creating like a funny moment, especially in something like this where it is very heavily dialogue, but I think the gestures really add to that comedy,
right? Yeah.
And kind of enforce it in that way.
Yeah, I think that's like really necessary, like in film specifically, because like if you have, like that's something that sure you can do in like stand-up comedy, right? Like you can add a visual element to yourself and sort of act out things to really sell and deliver a punchline. But in movies specifically, like the medium is visual, and I feel like it's really necessary to have that in part of the comedy because it's like so imbued with what you're showing. You know what I mean? Like you can't just have dialogue alone to really sell it. You really have to, like, we're watching it. It's a movie that we're watching, you know? And, like, you know, with movies, everything is, like, specific. Like, everything is pretty deliberate and done on purpose. I feel like that just adds to something that's part of the element of it.
Yeah.
You know?
I'd have to say, like, the part with the most animated and, like, acting part would probably be, like, that basically, like, fight scene.
Oh, yeah.
In the restaurant.
A staple.
And it's like all the slow-mo stuff happening.
It is. Shout outs to like being super long, yet super entertaining all the way through. Like I feel like slow-mo specifically is something that can very quickly get like daunting or boring, you know? But like they really like pull so much out of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think for me, I laughed more because like it's just so outrageous, right? It's like what the heck are they doing? It's not necessarily like the scene's funny in itself, but it's just like this is just funny. It's just stupid, right? And then I think that's why it's funny. But I think going back to like the slow motion part, and a moment that I really liked when they used slow motion was actually the same scene that I talked about before, when they're in the closet and they basically he gets caught, right, and the girl starts beating him up, and then his hand, the slow motion of his hand, he's just like, "Go survive, live."
And Dongwoo
let me
stops
be.
him from saying it. He's like, no,
like no.
It's like just
that moment, it was like great. I think in terms of using that.
Yeah, that's bro code right there. That's a real homie. He's like, Don't worry about it.
And like, yeah, like it's like those little things, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
Going into the cut of his hand and that gesture really sells that moment, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas like imagine just not having that and just having everything else. Like it'll be funny. It'll be, still good, but I think that really adds that like finishing touch to
100%.
making that scene like really work.
Yeah. It'd be a missed opportunity.
Right.
If not. Yeah. Things too are like this movie doesn't have it a lot, but I find like you can kind of do it a lot in comedies where like repetition or like the inside jokes with an audience.
Yeah.
With your audience. Like I said, I don't think there's two cases.
There's some.
Like you said, you're like their shtick with like the
pelvic thrust.
The pelvic thrust. And then I think my favorite is when like so in that scene and he's like, and then you gotta like deliver like the sudden line. What was it? He's like, I would love to rub my dick all over your ass. Yeah. And then she's just like in shock and then goes in for the kill.
Yeah.
And then that comes back into Kyung-jae in his like daydream with Jinju. He's like, I would love to rub my dick all over your ass. And she's like, the coffee smells nice.
Yeah.
But it's like this super sweet moment.
And then that's kind of supposed to like be reminiscent of like a Korean like commercial, like coffee commercial.
Oh.
That's why like when you see the ending shot, it's like the coffee is on the foreground. You see the little coffee cup.
Oh yeah.
And then you see the two like actors kind of like looking like they're drinking coffee.
Yeah.
It's like that CG like not CG but like commercial like scene that it's like such a typical like basic commercial like shot of like the actor.
There's something that's lost in translation.
Yeah, like the actor promoting the the product or the coffee.
That's gold.
And that's like, great. Adding an extra layer of like,
Yeah. All right, see, that's a layer that I missed for sure.
You missed it. Lost in translation. Lost in translation.
That would have made
because in Korea actually a lot of like in America, like American commercials aren't as much like saturated with like actors, right?
Right.
Actors don't really do like commercials.
Right.
But in Korea, like all the big name actors all do commercials.
Right.
And like, that's like where they make a lot of their money too, right? Like doing advertisements.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's a very like common thing in Korea, but like in America, you don't really see. It's kind of rare, right, to see like
it's only like
A-list actors like.
It's usually for something like pretty specific.
Yeah, like Old Spice or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Terry Crews or something, right?
Exactly. Like some companies like are able to get them,
right?
And then it just kind of becomes like.
Or like if the actor likes the product, then maybe like they want to do it, right? Something like that, right?
Or like now in recent times, it's if they own the product, like Ryan Reynolds is a big.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, if they own it, they do it. Or like for like Shaq, he used to do like Icy Hot. Stuff like that. Exactly. Like they do it, but it's really rare in terms of like in comparison to Korea.
I can imagine because, like maybe even like Japan's kind of the same way. Like you guys have like commercials that are kind of like iconic, like you said, like that's a staple and sort of like
very like
But like you said, it's almost stereotypical.
It's such a basic commercial. It's like it's like the actor drinking the coffee and saying it's good. Yeah. That's basically what the commercial is, right?
Right.
But like that's like a very basic like style of commercials that they do in Korea. Yeah. And so like if you watch this scene, you'll be like, oh, like that's supposed to like kind of do that. But then like the dick jokes in the middle of it, so you're like, what the hell, right?
It's like ruining it all. Yeah. Like we don't have like commercials in the U.S. Like it's not. It doesn't hold that much weight to like society. Yeah, it's not iconic. But TV's dying too, so there's but yeah, that seems great. And then like he like snaps in the way.
Oh yeah.
She's like, "What's wrong with you?"
He slaps himself. He's like, "I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry." She's like, "What's wrong with you, bro?"
Yeah.
Chill. Yeah, that was a funny one. Yeah. There's too many scenes to name. The movie's just great. There's like the romance thing is like really out there. It definitely gets when you like pull back and you see, right? So Kyung-jae ends up dating like the ex or like the childhood friend, which is like fine, but it's maybe a little unexpected too.
It's like it's a really like out there, right? Like in terms of like being like realistic.
Right.
Definitely not realistic at all, but like
I mean, I can believe it. Like I think that's the most realistic one of all of them, maybe. Like the one that's really out there is the sister. It's like, okay.
No, I mean, I think it's not realistic because, like, would you date somebody that your friend dated? Like, you know what I mean?
I don't think it happened that fast. I don't think it happened like, as quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they just like looked at each other like,
let's go.
The butterflies were in the back all of a sudden, right after they're both.
But I mean, I mean, it doesn't have to be realistic at all. I'm just saying,
Sure.
it's just kind of like it's funny that like that is the bit, right?
Yeah.
That they just like immediately like date each other.
Uh-huh.
But then also like Chio's been like dating around already, so it's kind of like whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, like I said,
they're not really like dating anyways, kind of.
But then he was a little butthurt about it after the scene. But it was like, but why?
Yeah,
like you weren't invested in that relationship.
And then they make a joke out of that themselves too, like while they're like talking.
Yeah.
While they're like drinking at the restaurant.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it just gets like super disrespectful.
Yeah, it's like my friend, my girlfriend is dating my friend, and my friend is dating my girlfriend. Like
my friend is screwing my best friend and my ex girlfriend, and he's like, "Stop saying that word."
Yeah,
that turns into a little bit. Yeah, but then so Kyung Jae's sister ends up getting into his friend Dongwoo, and then they end up going out at the end. Which is, I mean, like, that's the way that it was going throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But it's still like, oh, dang, like, your friend's dating your sister? That's a weird place to be, That's even weirder than dating your friend's ex, for sure.
I don't know. They're both weird, dude. I wouldn't say one is weirder than the other. They're both weird.
Yeah. And then, I mean, like, it's almost a very, like, romance movie by the book, really. Because that's probably more than the personal circumstance drama. That's really what takes lead in the story of the movie. Like the only person that it doesn't is for Dongwoo. Like he's kind of the only one that has the personal family trauma that really takes precedent. But everything else, for all intents and purposes, it's a very like rom-com-ish kind of movie, right? Because they all like find somebody that they love, and then it just turns tragic.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of rom-com. It's like it's a mix, right? Because I think the base of it, like the foundation of it, is more like coming of age and coming to terms with like their situation and what they have to do, like moving forward. Yeah, I think that's like the underlying current of the movie, and then after that, there's like the layer of like layer of like little bit of romance, and then there's a layer of comedy that kind of like is infused in all of that, right?
Yeah. But I think like one of the great things about this movie is that like the versatility of it in that way, where I mean really if I was to categorize it anything, I would probably say coming of age most of anything. Yeah. Right? Like if we had a coming of age series, I probably would have definitely put it in there. But like I said, it definitely dabbles in, it's definitely not just a straight comedy, though what is a straight comedy? But it is lots of romance, lots of drama. Yeah, but like you said, like I wouldn't put this in like a rom-com specifically, series, right? Right. I would put it in like a coming of age, but like I wouldn't put it in a rom-com. Right. I think it's funny. It's like a really weird, it's not like there's a specific rule for it, right? Yeah. But you kind of have an inkling and an understand like a feeling that like, it's more this than that. You put it in that box and you're like, it doesn't fit in that box. But also it's kind of like even like the ending, right? Like they kind of state it like as a coming of age and like kind of figuring out after. Right. So like it lends itself to that a lot more, and even the beginning of it too, right? Yeah. When they discuss like the 20 and the 40 and all of that. So it's like, it's definitely a coming of age more than like, I think the rom-com is just for the comedy, right? And for the situations that they go through. It's part of the story of like part of the coming of age. Right. Yeah, it's like, what is the, if we're putting it into genres, or really, I guess coming of age genre is like a theme, but what is the movie thematically reinforcing? Right. What is it identifying itself as? And I think, like you said, more than anything, it is definitely saying that it's a coming of age film. Yeah, I mean, it's like romance is part of coming of age, right? Right. Like it can be in this case. It is. Right. That's what I'm saying. Like if from here, like it's like this the romance is a big part of these people's lives, and then it's kind of
them coming to terms with all of that.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, like it starts off that way and it really ends with the same note as well.
Yeah.
So it kind of really tells it. But like I was saying before, I really like that it does all that. You know, like it adds like more layers to the movie and more like engagement to it. Like we said, it's definitely heavily comedic and sort of maybe more comedy than anything that it's kind of throwing at you. But there are very, serious moments and very like drama scenes in ways that those really add to you being invested into the characters. I think like those are the scenes that's like, oh, the stakes are at least real for them, and that it does at least make it worth worrying about for the characters.
Yeah,
like some other romances, like you pull back and it's like kind of silly, but for like them, that's something that's very serious to them. And then in the movie, it really shows like them being impacted by it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chio would probably be the most like unrealistic. I think for me, like in terms of like when I watch it and kind of it's like seeing how he is. It's kind of like, I mean, obviously anything in comedy, I think you can kind of give it a pass, to be honest, just because like it could it's for the fun, right? It's for the comedy. But like if you think about it, it's like he's dating. He has a girlfriend. He's dating another girl. He goes to clubs all day. Yeah. He does nothing every day. Like he just breathes in his house, and then like it's such a like outlandish kind of like character. But I think the actor like surprisingly did really well in terms of like making him somewhat believable. Yeah, right. Like somewhat like and I think what really helped for him for that character is his arc of wanting to become a director, like wanting to become like getting into that field and like kind of having that like moment, making him feel more relatable, like him wanting to pursue something, right? Yeah. And that's something that everyone kind of has, like a desire to, want to pursue something. And I'm sure like everyone has or had a point in their life maybe where they never wanted to do anything, right? And that's kind of relatable. So like those things kind of help him a lot. Yeah. But like if you just think about his situation, you're just like, what the heck? This guy like well it's just like it's like he has a girlfriend, but then he's like trying to date this other girl, and like it's just so crazy, right? To think about. And then the girlfriend like doesn't really even care. That's the most I think that's what like was like so crazy, right? Yeah. Just like that whole like first relationship was weird. Yeah. That's why it's like the second relationship when he meets the actress. Like that's definitely the meat of everything, and like that's the whole arc anyway. Yeah. That's because that's where like he's like the guy that doesn't really invest in romance. It's just like it's a girlfriend, and then he starts to develop feelings for this one girl, and then that really kind of impacts him. Yeah. At the end of it, so like it's funny because he's a very one-note character. Like I said, he's kind of a womanizer in that way, and he also has no desire, even just like for himself. And then when he finally does have desire, and when he finally like puts himself out there and has a heartbreak, like that level of depth finally, like for me anyway, it gives me an interest in that character finally, instead of thinking like, oh, he's kind of boring or he's just kind of a scumbag. But now, like I said, there's that little bit of a field of relatability. I did like the bits when like he's on the set. Oh yeah, and he's like doing all this little stuff, and actually one of my, if I could change my favorite scene because you stole my scene. Oh, you gotta do that. Would be the part when he's like describing the invasion of the penis aliens. I love that scene too. The celebration. Yeah, he brings out the green bean. Yeah, and he's like, no, the pepper, the green pepper. Oh, it's a pepper. Yeah, like it's a chili pepper. It's like chili pepper. Yeah. And he's like, he's like penis. He's like, no. You know why? Because it's the same word in Korean. Oh really? Yeah, that's why. That's lost in translation. That's lost in translation. Yeah. So it's the same word. Like gochu means, well, it's not same, but it phonetically it sounds very similar. Okay. Yeah. And that's why he was like, oh, like a pepper? Like pepper? He's like, I was like, no, a pea. Yeah. In between his legs, he's like, peanut. Yeah.
He's like, yeah. He's like, oh. And he gets like really invested in his story. He's like, don't be a director. You'll get depression.
Yeah, but I like that scene because of the manga part that comes out.
Yeah.
In the back, and it's kind of reminiscent of like a callback to the fact that one of his friends is trying to be a manga artist, right?
Did he say like he stole that idea from him?
No, he gave the idea to him.
He gave the idea, which he ended up taking. By the end,
yeah.
Making it to a comic.
Yeah.
Better serve a comic than a movie.
No, I love the part where he's like, at the end, like he kind of sobers up. He's like, "This is gonna be so expensive to make the production costs."
The production costs is like
so relatable.
From like the high to the low. We get it.
He gets so he's like hyping him up. He's like, "Oh, this is such a great idea."
But the production costs would be too high.
Yeah.
Don't become a director. You'll get depression.
Yeah. So funny.
Yeah, it's funny that another story, because like that happened too when I was watching this anime film called A Silent Voice. I'm sure most people that are otakus know about it. But I went to go. There's a scene in there, and it's funny. I went to go see it when it released in theaters, and I went to go see it with one of my dad's friends who's Japanese, and we thought we went to go see the sub, but it ended up being dubbed.
Oh, really?
The movie played. We're like, what the fuck? And there's a scene in there, so she had to watch it in English. And there's a scene where they're like crossing a bridge or whatever, and it's like kind of the climax, and the guy finally confesses to this girl, but in the movie the girl is like deaf, and basically like she's deaf, and he was bullying her when he was a kid.
Yeah.
When she was a kid, and like he completely regretted it his life, and then he finally meets her like in high school, so he's like he learns Japanese sign language and tries to like be friends with her. So he develops a crush and he confesses. Big spoilers, by the way. I'm so sorry to everybody. But
I mean, if the movie is about that, like you kind of expect that to happen. Like It's a romance movie.
Of course he's gonna confess, and the confession is like the big thing. And so he's like, he finally confesses like I like you, but the word for I like you in Japanese is skides, like SUKI, but like she doesn't hear him, or I think it's the other way. She confesses to him, and he doesn't hear her the first time.
Isn't there like fireworks going on, and then she?
No.
Oh, wasn't it?
No, that's probably a different one. Maybe. Actually, maybe you're right. I don't know. Like
Anyways.
But she doesn't hear him, and then he's like, "What'd you say? Like, repeat yourself." And then no, actually, he does confess. But then he points to the moon, and he's like, "Oh, the moon's actually pretty." But the word for moon is ski, so they're phonetically very similar. But for the word for like I like you is like suki, and then for the moon it's just ski, like without the u. But in the dub version, he's like confesses I like you, and then she's like, huh? And he's like, the moon is pretty. And you just like, if you don't know, it's just very like, wait, why did he
say that all of a sudden?
Yeah, why did he like change the topic or something out of there? And I remember looking over to my dad's friend, and like I immediately knew because I'd seen the movie before. I was like, oh, she probably doesn't get it. I was like, what's the word? I was like, what's the word for moon in Japanese? And she was like, oh, like it immediately rung through. So that can happen too.
Yeah.
Like it's so weird, and like, especially if it's dub, like that must be like such a weird like choice when you're doing it. Like,
right.
That's probably not gonna work well.
In parentheses, the same
yeah.
word.
Like, how do you fix that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a hard one.
So.
Yeah, so I guess you missed that kind of connotation there then.
Exactly.
With the green pepper, the chili pepper.
But that plays to the joke too, right? Like
it still works though, because like just the connotation of something pointy and long. You know what I mean?
Just the scene of it.
Yeah.
I just thought he grabbed something arbitrary.
Yeah, exactly. But it's actually a lot more nuanced, I guess.
All right, so going back to the translation answer that we had before, definitely yes.
Yeah.
They're definitely.
Yeah, those are like the things that I was wondering, right? Like if those things are missed or did they hit or you don't. I guess you don't even know, right?
Don't even know.
Yeah.
How do I know if it's wrong?
Exactly.
If I can't tell. But I mean, like you said, those are like very small things and like
Right.
for the grand scheme of the joke.
Yeah.
But it would.
But if it was like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if the movie, this is a very generalized. I feel like it's a very broad movie
Right.
that utilizes very like broad jokes that are very accessible to all, like
Everybody.
appeal. I don't know if appealing's the right word, but like, you know, like it's such like basic like first tier like jokes
Yeah.
that it's not that hard to like understand.
Mm.
Whereas I feel like if there were more of like those really nuanced like if it's like really specific wordplay or whatever like that,
Yeah.
it might be a little bit harder for people who are, you know, just watching it through subtitles to understand.
Right.
Like for example, like this for this joke, it was kind of supplementary, right?
Exactly.
Which is why it was fine if it was missed.
Yeah.
But
Everybody's
then
laughing at a penis. joke.
right. But if it was a little more like a very specific thing, like the moon thing,
Right.
you might
That would be-
miss it, right?
yeah,
You
exactly.
might be like, "What the heck is going on?" Like,
Yeah.
huh?
Like, well,
Right.
that doesn't make sense.
Isn't that that funny, right?
Right.
But
But like I said, here it's supplemental. It just
Yeah.
adds like a little layer to it.
Mhm.
You know, the same thing with the coffee commercial bit. It's just,
right,
like, a
right. The
little-
coffee, yeah, exactly.
So like it's like even like it's very shot specific in that way, in that scene specifically, because like I said, it rolls.
It's to mimic that commercial feel.
Right.
But then even just the setting and the contrast between the joke and the setting is just that's the main meat of the
Right.
of the joke,
And that's what I like. That was my interpretation.
which
like,
still works.
yeah, it's just juxtaposing. Oh, this is a very sweet moment. That's
Yeah.
like very romantic, and then
Yeah,
just
like she's trying to be very romantic, and
Right,
he
right.
just says a
He's
stupid
like,
thing.
I confess to you.
And that like that very like dreamy look to it and all of that is
your
just
favorite lighting,
right. Mine,
soft.
mine's just black and white contrast.
His God.
Noir, like harsh lighting,
my
you know,
God.
just shadows everywhere.
Oh my God. No, soft. You love soft lighting.
Old boy is where it's at, you know, like
You love like the fuzz around the edge of them.
just soft, everything soft,
everything
glimmering.
glow. No
But yeah.
shadows, just light. Just light. But yeah. Anything else worth noting? Anything else
Mm,
exciting? How? Okay, my question to you is like how like on a level of like funny, like how comedic did you kind of think this movie was?
I was never like bursting out laughing. I don't think. I mean, first of all, I'm not like the type to burst out laugh usually, but there were definitely moments that made me chuckle because of how stupid it was. Like for example, like the hand gesture.
Yeah.
I chuckled there, and like the moment when like the Chinese restaurant when they were like fighting and stuff.
Yeah.
Like at first I was just like, this is so dumb, but then like because it was just going on for so long, and they're just playing it out like so like, you know, with so much passion, I started like chuckling.
Yeah.
There are many moments I think like that, but it was never like, oh man, this is so funny
Yeah.
for me. But definitely like I enjoyed it. Like if I'm chuckling, I think I'm enjoying it. So
Right.
yeah.
Oh, that's the lead test. Like all you need is a chuckle out of this
I mean,
guy.
like I don't really like
that
I'm
doesn't
like,
doesn't bring my hopes up for the rest of the series.
No, it depends though, right? Like if it's and also it's because it's very like it's like college humor, you know what I mean? It's such like yeah, it's so
such a
college
bro
humor.
movie. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's never like I'm never like crazy like burst out laughing for that, but
Sure.
yeah.
I get it. It's
But I mean
that's
it's
easy.
fine. It's fun. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, right. Just fine.
It's fine.
Just fine. I'm the one that's looking stupid for saying it's my favorite movie. of all
All
time.
right, go ahead, man. You do you.
That's why I took your favorite scene.
You do you, bro. You do you.
No, I think like one of the things, one of the biggest like tests for me in this movie is every time I watch it. Like I said, like I remember when I first watch it, it's like laugh out loud funny. Like everything kind of works, especially because like it's a foreign film. It just adds that layer of freshness to it. It's like, oh, this is like kind of comedy that I've never seen, though you've like seen it. But like I said, and so now after I've watching it so many times, it's like, will the movie still like make me laugh? And I think with just comedy movies in general that I love. That's like the main question: is will it make me, laugh again, or like do the same jokes kind of deliver, or will there be other, or are there like other elements to dig into that, will keep me laughing, keep the movie kind of fresh. Like same thing with Story of Inosuke too. Like I think that movie is funny, like just as my own humor. But like, will it still be funny after I watch it so many times?
Yeah, like for me too. Like I think, like for this movie and like for Yonosuke as well. Like I thought it was funny, but like I'm not like the type to like be laughing, right? I do think it's funny, but I don't think I'm not like outward. Like when I watch a movie, I think I'm like that. But like maybe like, for example, like when I'm watching like a comedy like stand up bit, I laugh, right?
Right.
But it's different though. Like I feel like for movies, it's more like a observational like medium that I don't really.
There's just a lot more going on,
right?
Rather than like
that I don't take it. I don't respond to it the same way that I would like a stand up comic, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, like the goals are different, right? Like stand-up comedy is like you're just
they're literally
to
trying to make you laugh.
Yeah.
And like there's a bit of like a give and take there, right?
Exactly.
Whereas I feel like a movie, to be fair, like if it's really funny, I do laugh, right? It's not like I don't laugh, but it like you said, it has to be like really like refreshing. Like it has to be really like kind of like out there, like something that I'm not really accustomed to. That kind of like takes me off guard.
Right.
Like you said, like something like a foreign film would probably do that more, right? But like a Korean film like this, there's a lot more within the, within the scope of what I already understand and know.
Right. Yeah.
That makes it less like shocking or like less like prone for me to just laugh like crazy.
Right. Yeah. No, I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, they're getting at two different things too as well. Where like a movie is like, it's not really seeking out for pure laughter. Like it's also kind of be a good job at being a movie.
Right. And there are moments in this movie as well where it's more like we said, like coming of age moments too. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean that's just kind of like my observation for the movie. And like I said, I definitely picked up a lot of just like the little things and the little kind of scenes that like really add to the comedy, and that like this time around too, I'm not laughing out loud like it's my first time.
Right,
it's probably like my fifth time watching it.
Yeah.
But like I'm still having a good time and I'm still laughing at
exactly
scenes again.
Yeah.
I was thinking like another little thing was when they're all heartbroken or something and they're back at the restaurant, and then Chiho goes back to like we should all have sex like again. And they're like, yeah, and he's like, let's go to one of those like bars or whatever. And he's like, it's going against our principles. It's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. And they all go to the karaoke bar with the hostess. And Chiho and Dongwoo are like having eye communication. And they're like having a whole
and then the subtitles on the side is like this robotic like type.
Yeah. He's like, are we allowed to touch their breasts? And he's like, I don't know, I've never paid for boobs before.
And he's like, I will go first. I'll try first.
Yeah.
He's like, good.
But it's just like,
go ahead.
The expression that like specifically Dongwoo has, and he's just like all giddy with his watermelon. Like those are just the small things that like that add to it,
Right.
Like after the fact, one day he's gonna go for the kill, and he looks, and then Kyungjae is already like touching her, and he blacks out, and then she was like, "You go ahead."
Oh yeah. You got your cue to go ahead.
Or like the other one that I remember was when he like visits his brother. So Dongwoo visits his brother back home, and they're talking. I think it's like his second visit or something. And he brings fried chicken for his twin little brothers.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, twins," and the brothers are like, "Hey." And then they like squint, and then they look and they see the box, and they're like, chicken! "Is that chicken?" He's like, "Yeah." And one of them steals it, but one of the brothers like is like treating him like a king. He like grabs him and he's like leading him inside. That's like the funniest little thing. But it's like quick and like small, But it's filling.
Right.
So
yeah, like those little moments I think really makes me laugh more than anything. Like I said, like the hand gestures and all that.
Yeah.
Like those really I think makes me laugh more than like just the whole scene itself.
So props to them. This movie's great. This movie's really a good one. I'm not tired of it yet, so that's a good sign. But I think we can wrap it up there, right? And next week, dang, see, I'm not prepared.
It's the Japanese one. The tea.
Is it Taste for Tea?
Taste for Tea.
Is it really? See the excitement in my voice?
Is it really?
Is it really? Is it really? It is Taste for Tea, yeah.
Yeah, you think I'd be lying, bro?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Dang, see? You heard it here first. He's a liar and a thief. So next week, that'll wrap up for 20. Next week, we'll be watching Taste of Tea. This comes from Japan. It was made in 2004, directed by Katsuhito Ishii. So good luck trying to find it. I'm excited for this movie because it's been a long time since I've seen this. And it's just one of those movies that I saw once and like really liked it. And I was like, this movie is a gem. Like you just put it away somewhere and you're like, this deserves to be watched every so often, you know?
Like we watched the trailer together, and just watching the trailer, I was like, this seems like a good movie. It's funny because like it's hard for the trailer to just do that. Mm-hmm. But I think like it was very distinct in the way that like the film looked.
You're right.
And I was like, oh, like this seems like it's gonna be a pretty like fun movie to watch, right? Or like an interesting movie. Like it's very like unique in the way that it, and because it's comedy, I think it's like even more eccentric.
Yes.
Like the type of comedy that they're doing in this movie, I feel like it's kind of rare in Japanese like cinema. I don't know, but
I think in the world
mainstream,
of cinema, like, this is something that like similar that you may get from like TV, like like Japanese game shows are very eccentric.
Yeah.
Or like just out there.
Yeah.
Terms of like trying to sell it. The same kind of like feelings or notes like are translated or like in the movie,
right?
But more of like a free form art.
Exactly, but like I feel like movies, like Japanese movies, don't really do that, right?
Right. Yeah. No.
Like their comedy is a lot more like Story of Inosuke or like or like more like manga, like
right,
comic stuff like that. Which is why I feel like this one was like, oh, like it's kind of very different.
Yeah.
In that respect, and it seemed like it's gonna be a pretty fun thing to watch.
It's gonna be a wild ride. I can probably guarantee you that you have never seen a movie like this for sure.
Yeah.
If your taste isn't so 20, but more like just stupid humor, like outlandish, then you might laugh out loud in this movie for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely outlandish.
Yeah, like I feel like this one, for example, might make me laugh a lot more, just because it's like something that is kind of far removed from what my general like scope of comedy is.
Right. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited to watch this, like I said. So we'll catch up for next week, and that'll wrap it up. Give us a subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and just a reminder, we do have a Patreon now. So if you want some extra goodies, some extra episodes, as well as every episode that we'll be doing, it'll be on there. There's a lot of, want to build a community, and a lot of engagement that we'll be getting into as well. So check out our Patreon at Getting Past Subtitles for some bonus exciting things. Other than that, we will see you guys next week. Peace.
Bye.